it together. As we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots, sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only wakes us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Napoleon another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All about the Betty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
Hey guys, it's Mo, and we are back all the petty, all the time with our favorite Mighty Morphin Mormon, Lori Vallow. Gird your loins, gird your stomachs. Hopefully you had a good breakfast with bacon or something good, because we are going to hear about Lori's fantabulous, freaking enchiladas. And again, I have called out the caucasity on these. I have spoken to Iris, and these are not enchiladas, according to her. Now, Iris is my base on this, and quite frankly, she's my expert in this, but she said those are not enchiladas. She didn't even know how to classify chicken breast, cream cheese, and, a can of green chilies as being enchilada. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like no seasoning. But let's get into this so we can hear from, the crazy transmuted being herself.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
It's Lori doing her best, gonna pro se with the ever best. Even the cameraman's like, I'm out.
Mr. Cox, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person?
Don't know.
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
Please, Lord God, let me be a witness. Can I be a pinch hitter witness? So when people have to deal with a-holes being pro se, I get to say really douchey things to her back. Because I'd be like, I don't know, I blocked it from my memory. I don't know, last time I saw you, you were in chains. I was okay with it. Also, I am not a doctorologist, a lawyerologist, a phrenologist, or an astrophysicist. I am a redhead who likes to play with wigs and talk on the interwebs. While I have fashioned a church for myself, I am not a leader. Do not take life advice from me, unless, of course, you agree with it. And even then, take it with a ramen noodles pack of sodium, and that's a lot. Oh, Lord, this heifer. Again, Lori, for the bajillionth time, you are not that important. He probably doesn't think about you often unless it's like a bad thing, and he probably ignores it and plays pickleball. That being said, you're not that important. You don't live rent-free in anyone's head but your own. You're welcome.
So, has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years?
Something?
Okay, so you have no idea.
Nope.
You have no idea when the last time you saw me in person.
I don't know the year or how many years it's been.
Okay, so did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding?
No, I did not.
Are you dating? Again, he's your brother, and he's a man. I could ask Mr. Mo, hey, do you remember that party? And he'd be like, was I there? Was I wearing pants? It's like, yes, you were there. I made this, this, and this. I vaguely remember something. He's a man. Unless you give him situations or times around things, he's not going to remember. Also, you aren't dating. You don't live rent-free in everyone's mind. No one really cares about you, Lori, other than the fact that you've done hideous things, and I kind of wish that I could launch you into the sun and pay for tickets. Of course, allegedly in Minecraft.
So did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house.
I did see you at that house, yes.
At least one time.
Yes.
So possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay, so you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
He probably blocked it out. He's eating cream cheese chicken breast and some old desiccated chilies. They're not that good. He's probably blocked it out. Again, those aren't enchiladas. Those are something bad. Just no seasoning. I bet she didn't even pull McCormick's out. Give it some coriander, give it some cumin, give it nothing. Nope. Now, she was probably like, I got some hot sauce if you like a tapatio. She probably got red Pete, too. She probably didn't even get tapatio.
I don't remember that.
Okay. And when was the last time that we had a phone call or text message?
I have no idea.
Could it possibly be around that exact same time?
Possibly.
Okay.
You're not dating.
So that was possibly in early 2018?
Yes.
Okay.
Where are we going with this, Lori? Because I'm confounded.
Who do you think initiated the final communication in our relationship?
Who concluded it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So right now it's 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we haven't spoken in about 8 years? Would that be correct?
It's probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So would you say up until that point that how often would we communicate before that?
Before what?
Before 2018?
Probably on a regular basis. Once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month.
Like a call or a text message?
Yes.
Just keeping in touch?
Yes.
I pause this because, Lori, I would like the faintest, foggiest clue where you're going. I understand that your thought process is more, a clanging monkey with cymbals, but even I and my chaos demon nebulas of thought do not have the foggiest, faintest flapjack idea where the hell you're going with this. But let's continue. Maybe Carmen Sandiego and a thought process will appear. Most likely not, but hope springs eternal.
You know of us living in Hawaii and you were living in Kansas at the time?
Yes.
And in your career, you lived in lots of different places, is that correct?
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Wichita,
Yes.
Sacramento.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Others.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, something, something, something. I used to be in a show choir. Can you imagine? Back when I was still doing stuff with peopling in school, I used to be in show choir and we did the whole United States. It was a song and it's mnemonic. I can remember some of it, but only the A ones. That being said, I used to know all 50 states and be able to do a song and a cha-cha-cha with them in little heels. Some of those things aren't happening anymore, like remembering the states.
And I was in Texas,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So would you say that we were not physically close during the past 20 years?
Yes, I would say that.
So our communication would be solely family get-togethers, occasional text messages. Is that correct?
And phone calls, yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again?
Okay. Did you see with your eyes
All right,
or
I feel
hear
like
with your ears?
I'm better
or
able to
personally
handle her
witness
crazy with this.
Me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect?
Sweetheart, they have communications between you and Alex, your boyfriend, brother. Sweetheart, he doesn't have to see it. You kind of left digital evidence all over the effing place. That being said, again, what were we trying to achieve? So here's what I think Lori was attempting to do, although she does it terribly because she's not one of those legal people. I think she was trying to establish that she and her brother don't have a close relationship. So while it is, he might be privy to some parts of, the marriage and destruction, he didn't have a full picture of her daily life. They were more acquaintances than siblings. So I believe that is where she was going with this. Now, this is giving Lori a lot of credit and trying to sort out madness, but that's what I'm gathering she was trying to do ineffectually. That being said, the conspirosity hat comes off. Well, no, it comes back on because now it's ruined my hair. But I think we need this. I need to shield myself from whatever translated beingness she has going on, because we can only imagine. I do have it somewhat Australian-wise. Look, I don't know how to wear hats. I don't generally do it. But let's continue.
Have you talked to your sister since Charles was shot and killed?
No.
So, since that happened, you cut off all communications with her?
Yes.
Prior to that, you were being asked about 2018 being at Lori and Charles's house. Was that the time where Lori told you she was becoming a celestial being?
Yes.
And the time where she was telling you other ideas that were not.
Where does one buy a card to congratulate someone for being a celestial being? I just have a question. I don't know if it's in a Hallmark section. Is there like a Mormon sort of LDS, greeting card company that's like, hey, congratulations on your temple garment wear, or congratulations on your translatedness, or, oh, thank you for baptizing your dead relatives so they can go to your planet. Again, there are a lot of weird things about Catholicism. As a recovering Catholic, I throw no stones. I'm just saying, maybe there needs to be a Hallmark card for being a translated being a being of translation. I don't know. You just think that'd be like a card for it. They've got a card for everything.
Not in line with the LDS faith?
Yes.
After you had heard those statements by your sister, you told us that she had asked you if you thought she was crazy, right?
Yes.
And you had responded back how?
I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true.
After you told her that her beliefs were not true, did that sort of end your talking with her?
Yes.
You were asked if you personally saw, heard your sister Lori conspire to kill Charles. Were you there that morning?
No.
Were you the person who was supposed to, though, be with Alex on the 10th into the morning of the 11th? You spent the night with him?
If I would have spent the night with him, yes.
So that stood out to you because you had made plans with your brother, right?
Yes.
And instead, you learned he was at Lori's house.
Yes.
You told us that you thought it was odd that your brother would be over at your sister's house at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And you were aware that your brother had guns.
Yes.
Charles was going there to pick up JJ, right?
Yes.
And so did it seem odd to you that your brother would bring a gun that was loaded with extra magazines that was not safe to your sister's house where JJ was?
Objection, out of scope. This is not
Goes
just
to
a
the conspiracy.
redirect. This is not just a redirect.
Hey, I didn't ask for argument. Okay.
Also, Lori, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You should have just said hearsay. Again, hearsay, according to lawyers, is one of those nebulous things that a judge often has to think about. But you can throw it out there and then have them think just to throw off, I guess, rhythm sometimes. But she's like, excuse me, I would like to speak to your judge manager. Ma'am, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, and as much as I enjoy it for comedic effect, I also do wish that you had current residence in, well, the center of Beetlejuice, a soon-to-be supernova, allegedly in Minecraft.
Objections overruled.
What's the question?
Sure. Did it stand out to you that your brother, who knew JJ, would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition to the house where JJ was running around.
Oh, I do need to do another video. It does look like Lori is appealing both of her cases, saying that she was not competent to defend herself. So I will be going over her motion. I do need to contact Jedi Jess. She is my documentologist she is the goddess of documentology and finding things, because I suck out loud about it. But she is appealing, stating that she was sick and incompetent. And while I agree on both of those, I don't think that's means for an appeal, but I'm not a lawyer.
Well,
It wasn't-
I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
You're saying afterwards?
Yeah, you learned afterwards your brother killed him, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about this conspiracy and things that are going on. Did that seem odd to you that your brother would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition in his unsafe way to a house where your, sister's son, JJ, lived?
Yeah, it seems extreme.
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lori had told people that.
Because I am a smart, intelligent person that notices patterns, not to mention bitch said she was going to take him out. I mean, quite literally, she said he needs to be taken out. These are Lori's words, not mine, YouTube gods and censorologist. That being said, it's not hard to see my husband has dark spirits. He's being controlled by the Negaverse. And then, Lori's like, I'm becoming Zordon. Yes, I went Power Rangers with it. Yeah, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes, the Hardy Boys, and Nancy Drew, also Nancy Grace, although I don't call upon her name because Ursula has to stay in the sea. Again, if you've never looked at Nancy Grace and Ursula in the same, side by side, tell me they're not the same person.
Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning. Lori talking crazy about how she's a translated being. All these things all added up into that moment and that morning. Once I found out on Saturday that Charles was shot and killed, no doubt in my mind that they killed him. That's a feeling that I got.
And you told your family that?
Yes.
No other questions?
The last line of questioning from the possession of the gun on, I think the defendant's right, was technically beyond the scope of her cross. So based on that, I'll allow the defendant, if she wants to recross on those issues, if she elects to, may do so now.
I really like this judge. He has to deal with the craziness of a pro se client who's kind of fumbling with the law, the procedure. But despite Lori being a super mega thunder cow, he is thoughtful, takes time, and does deliberate, fairly. And it's such a refreshing thing to see after Judge Beverly Cannoni, to see a judge that really takes the time, listens to both sides, and then applies the law like a impartial gatekeeper or goalie that he's supposed to be, a referee. So it is refreshing and nice. Now, do I like that this has given Lori a chance to talk more? Not really, but I want her to have a fair and fulsome trial so then we can finally say she's a treble convicted, dumpster water human. Come on, Lori, you can do it. Put a little legal to it.
Seeing any, sir, you can step down. Questions from any member of the jury? Not seeing any, sir, you can step down. You can step down. Thanks.
And on a more serious note, on a more, kind of not so petty note, I feel extremely bad for Adam to kind of be the only island of sanity in an archipelago of crazy. I can't imagine, having your family side with Lori, having you be the odd duck out, when Lori has gone on to do so much damage, so much pain and destruction, even to her own damn family. So my heart goes out to Adam. I'm sure it's not easy, again, to be an alien within your own family, the one person from the start that, saw evil, called it out, and maintained that stance. I'm sure he has lost a lot of relatives, a lot of relationships because of it. And it's actually quite brave that he came and he spoke. So, hats off to him, and hats off for now because it's a little hot in this room.
You can call its next witness.
Thank you. If I may go get her.
Go ahead.
Stay with us, we're going to start.
You gonna stand right here.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You're gonna walk around the court reporter here and have a seat just to my left.
Does anyone find it really interesting? Okay, that's not the same thing. But this witness and the other witness that were kind of invited to these culty meetings, exorcisms, I don't know, that they all have a similar look to Lori. I just find it odd. It is something I noticed, but they're all blonde, fairly athletic, wearing white. It's just something I noticed. Maybe it's a thing. I do know that, again, as a non-LDS person, I do know that there are special garments that you're supposed to wear, and it kind of restricts. And I think the church really tells people to be modest. So there might be some conformity just because of the temple garments that I'm not supposed to know about. But those being a part of your daily life. I don't know, but it does it looks, Lori had a type is all I've got to say. And she wanted, blonde, statuesque people like herself, I guess. It was going to be a pretty cult, all the pretty people.
Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Serena Sharp.
I'm going to have you pull in a little or move the mic down a little closer to you so we can hear you. Thank you. How old are you, Serena?
How old am I? 51.
And where are you living currently? What state, what city?
Arizona, Queen.
Holy crap, she makes me want to sit up straight. Like her posture is like, whew. She must have gone to etiquette class because that is a good posture. Look, the whole multiple lives and always picking Chad part kind of confuses me. I mean, A, for picking Chad every time, Lori, for loyalty, but every lifetime you're like, Fabio? No, get me the guy that looks like a thumb and an extra in a Lego movie. He really churns my butter. Ugh.
Queen Creek.
And where did you live back in 2019, 2018?
Connecticut.
Okay. When did you move to Arizona?
It was right before COVID, so 2019.
Do you recall? I know we don't have a lot of weather here, but summer, winter, fall.
It's definitely summer. It was hot. I think it was end of July, August, but we closed on our house September.
I find
Are
myself
you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ?
giving no F's about that. I have no F's to give. Chad, the part that pisses me off about this trial, this story, is that Alex is not going to ever get earthly justice. Now, I have a feeling that a certain someone is very busy with him. Maybe it's Satan. But it does seem like the actual person who did all of the damning dirty deeds, the dirty work, now is beyond our ability to punish. That being said, I am sure someone is taking care of that in the afterlife. And or he got reincarnated into a wasp or something that got stuck in one of those things.
Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes.
Were you raised in this church?
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about a group preparing the people. Have you ever attended any of their events?
Yes. Two.
Can you tell us what those are?
They were conferences that helped people prepare physically and spiritually for emergency preparedness and the second coming of the Lord.
And you said you attended a couple of those conferences.
Yes.
Are they located sort of around the country?
Yes.
Did you ever attend one of those conferences here in Arizona?
Wait, so when Jesus comes back, I thought he came back and made everything good. Again, I will say that I need to read my Bible a lot more. Again, world's worst Christian, do not follow me for spiritual advice. That being said, I don't remember the Bible ever telling us to learn how to go off grid. That being said, survival skills are good for any time. You know, it might not be the second coming, but there might be a blizzard. So I have some stuff stocked up. I'm not crazy about it, but in case, you know, I've got emergency food, because we live in a rural part of the state and there's a lot of hills, and if it gets icy or snowy, we're not getting out of our neighborhood. And there are 8 people in my family, and we don't want to resort to Lord of the Flies.
I did.
Do you recall when that was?
It was November of 2018.
When you decided to come to this conference in November of 2018, did you know anyone here?
2 people, one just from over the phone conversations, Melanie Gibb and Jason Mao.
So did you have any
Okay, this is the thing that's always also bothered me about this particular case, the Melanie Gibbs and Jason Mao. Now, I haven't delved completely into this case. I'm not a Loriologist, but Melanie, I think, knew more about what was going on than she has portrayed. This is my personal thought. This is my personal speculation. I will put this all out there. This is in my noggin, not in evidence, allegedly in Minecraft. But the vibe I've always gotten from her is that she knew a lot more of the sort of dark. I think she was privy to a lot more than she's led on to. I think she's ashamed of what, you know, she took part in. And I think she has edited, you know, for her mental health, maybe for her own narrative. But I do feel like, and I've always gotten the feeling from Melanie Gibb, that she's known more. She was more privy to inner workings of everything than she has led on with. That being said, when Lori asked her to lie about where JJ was, she did go to the authorities. She did tell the truth eventually. But I've always gotten the vibe from her that she knew more than, or she knows more, or maybe intuited more than she just led on.
place to stay when you came here? What was your thoughts as you're coming in for this conference?
Both of them invited me to stay at their homes.
And what was your plan? Who did you think you were going to stay with?
I thought I was going to stay with Melanie Gibb because she offered to pick me up at the airport as well, so that I didn't need to rent a car.
Did you know Arizona well?
Not at all, no.
So were you picked up by Melanie Gibb?
Yes,
And did you stay at her house?
no.
Where did you stay?
After she picked me up, she said that instead of her house, because her whole family was home and it was busy and chaotic, we were going to stay at her friend's house, whose family was gone for the weekend and had a bunch of people for the conference staying there.
Okay. Who was that?
That was Lori.
Did you know her last name, or did you learn it?
I learned it when I got there. I had never heard or had met her before.
What was her last name?
Vallow?
Okay. So you told us you didn't know Lori Vallow.
Okay, none of this makes sense. Again, I'm an inside cat. I don't go outside much. So my introvert soul is screaming right now because she went to a conference with people she's never met. And she's like, sure, I'll stay in your house. Now, I have watched clinically way too much Law and Order SVU and true crime stories. Hell no, I'm getting an Airbnb and I'm getting my own car in case I have to run. That being said, possibly my outlook on life is tainted with my, true crime obsession, but there is no way in hell I'm staying in a place where I don't know any GD people and they're like, oh, you can stay at this one chick's house. I'm just telling you guys, this would be a panic attack for Mo. I don't do this kind. If I know you for a long time, we've hung out. Sure, stay at your house. Random person I've never met who's just housing a bunch of people for this conference. That is a no for Mo. I'm just going to say no.
Hello, prior to just coming to stay at her house.
No.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's right there with glasses on and blonde hair and a black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
Good show.
Do you recall who else was staying at Lori's house that weekend?
There was a lot of people, and I was meeting everybody for the first time, so I don't recall everybody, but I do know Lori was there and Melanie was there.
Did you ever meet Chad Daybell?
Yes, he was there as well.
Was that the first time you met him?
Look, I've never met Chad, but I think he has clammy, moist hands. You know, the hands that make you wish that we were still in COVID and we didn't have to touch other people? I don't know. And I think he smells like kind of dusty and mildewy. I don't know. You know those people that like can shower and put on cologne, but there is that under smell of musty no matter what? Again, never met the man, but my mental headcanon is he has clammy, dead hands. And it makes you want to like wash your hands with Purell if you had to touch him. But that is with hindsight, knowing what he did. So maybe on first, meet with him before all of this, I would have just thought he was weird. And he's probably one of those exceptionally close talkers. You know, the ones where you take a step back and they're still walking toward you, not getting the clue that talking to me like this is not what I need.
Yes.
So during this event, are you going between Lori's home and to a location where the conference is at?
Correct.
Okay. And did you ever talk with Chad Daybell outside of, well, like, did you ever talk with him that weekend?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever talk with him after that November 2018 conference here in Arizona?
Yes.
When else did you see or talk with him?
I saw him at another Preparing a People conference in February.
So that's 2019 now,
Yes.
after the November one.
Correct.
Where was that one?
That was in Idaho.
And did you ever contemplate moving to Idaho?
Yes.
Did you ever meet with him in Idaho well, did you learn he lived there?
Yeah. When did I learn?
Did you learn that he lived in Idaho?
Yes.
And did you ever, in fact, meet with him in Idaho to kind of talk about possibly moving there?
Yes. I was actually house hunting with a realtor and in the city that he lived, so we connected for a few minutes.
What city was that?
Rexburg?
Did you know if Chad was married at that time?
Yes.
Okay. When you were staying at Lori's house in Phoenix in November of 2018, did you understand her to be married?
Yes.
At that time, did you have any idea that Lori and Chad were having an affair?
No idea.
Look, none of us want the mental images that brings up. And some of us have an extraordinary imagination which works against them in these situations. So I'll just say what everyone's thinking. Ugh.
After you met Lori at this and stayed at her house, did you have any more conversations with her, texts or phone calls?
Yes.
Were you ever invited back out to Arizona?
Yes.
When was that?
That was in March of 2019 for Girls Weekend.
What was the girls' weekend going to be?
It was a few girls coming together for a Girls Weekend, so
Whose house, where was it going to be?
that was at Zulema's house. And I think from my memory, she's the one who invited me and started that Girls Weekend idea.
Had you met Zulema before?
Yes.
Where had you met her?
It's vague, but I think I met her at the first Preparing a People conference I came to, which was the November 2018 here in Arizona.
Okay, again, not trying to make fun, but if you go to one conference, aren't you prepared? Isn't it basically the same conference, or is it like Comic-Con where they get new people in? Because Chad seems to be on the preparing a people conference tour. I mean, is there more preparing that you need every time, or do they go into the basics, or I'm just confused about going to multiple conferences if you're basically getting the same information. That being said, maybe they're different, like symposia about whatever the things, I don't know.
And had you talked with her as well between that November time and when you came out in March?
Yes.
Who else was part of this Girls Weekend that you recall?
It was Lori and Melanie Gibb, Zulema, Christina, Nicole, and myself. I think that's it.
Now, were all of you women members of the LDS Church?
Yes.
During this time, did Lori ever tell you things about her beliefs that seemed to go against what you understood or what you were taught through the LDS Church?
Yes.
Did Lori ever tell you that she did not need to repent?
Yes, she did.
What does repenting mean?
Repenting means turning to God and confessing our sins and repairing our relationship with Him so that He can take on our sins for us and we can become better people through Him and seek His forgiveness.
Repentance is about atonement. First, you have to believe that you've done something wrong, which Lori is incapable of as a transmuted, transmogrified being. Again, y'all, as a recovering Catholic born with original sin, I have often wondered, like, holy crap, what must it be like to go about and never question your actions? Like to never have guilt and like constant anxiety that you've hurt someone's feelings or something like, or done something wrong. Like, how does one operate? I kind of want to do like Elon, forget, Neuralink for anything. I'd like to spend a day like, was it Total Recall, where I live like Lori and give no shits. I would only do a day because that honestly would probably turn me into Darth Vader. Not gonna lie. I would choose the dark side. But it'd be interesting to visit because I have never lived with that. I've always like, you need to repent for this and this and this.
Do you recall what Lori told you about not needing to repent anymore?
What I remember is she's had a couple of verses in the Bible that she pulled out and read and then said, I believe something to the effect of, I believe we don't need to repent anymore.
Did that stand out to you?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Was that
was
concerning
shocking.
to you?
Reason of 11 billion number 12, I wouldn't be invited to Lori's thing because as soon as she says that, even if I'm trying to be polite, my face does. See, my face will always tell on me. This is why my mom was like, you should go to school to be a lawyer. I was like, Mom, my face is contempt of court. I'll stick with what I'm doing. Not to mention I would just want to spout out hot takes and make stupidity criminal. I think it should be a felony.
Pardon?
Was that concerning to you?
Very.
I think you just said you were shocked by it.
Yes.
It was that against your religion.
Correct.
Did she ever express to you and this group that all of you might not need to repent?
I don't remember the specifics of it. If she was trying to apply that to us or just to her, I don't remember.
Lori's narcissistic. She would never apply transmuted powers to you. She wanted a group of underlings who looked just about like her in a same age that she could tell things to. Lori's biggest thing is she wanted to be listened to and observed as the best, Christian, whatever she was. So I doubt that she would have transmuted any of you. Lori doesn't seem like the type to give up power and let others rule. That being said, continue to repent. We all mess up. We're human.
I just remember she said, we, or generally, I don't remember the specific word she used, but that there was not a need for repentance anymore.
Do you recall, have you been interviewed by the police a couple different times?
Yes.
Do you recall being interviewed in April of 2021?
That was the Chandler Police
At the
Department?
police department instead of at your home? Yeah. Do you recall saying to the detectives then,
See, this is the real reason I do YouTube, because if not, I'd be out on the street slinging LuLaRoe, trying to get women to wear florals. Speaking of which, LuLaRoe, your clothes are comfy, but could you come up with solid colors? Something that's not a garish, ridiculous pattern for those of us who have to wear comfy clothes for forever. You are recommended by the CRPS or RSD Foundation as comfy clothes. The problem is you only have florals, and I'm not a floral person. Could you make some stuff with curse words on it? I know you're a Christianish company, but I'm Christianish and I wear curse words and I'm okay with it. So could we possibly make something that doesn't look like Garanimals for adults? Thank you and goodbye.
that she said, we don't need to repent anymore. We've come to that stage. And then you were asked when she said we, was she talking about like her and Chad or all you guys? And you said she was trying to get all of us to believe that. You recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that, but if that's in the transcripts, that was much closer to the time when it was said. It's been a few years. I don't remember exactly what was said anymore.
So your memory back then would have been better than now?
For sure.
Again, we get my spidey sense, and this is only my spidey sense, but she remembers everything. I think she's deeply embarrassed and has probably gotten a lot of flack for even being tangentially associated with Lori as far as the church goes. I think it's with this particular witness, and again, this is just my, Miss Cleo moment. Her kind of evasiveness, her not remembering, seems more from embarrassment to me. Melanie Gibbs has always seemed like there was a deeper thing there, that she knew more and is deeply ashamed or rewriting her narrative so she didn't know more. Again, these are personal Mo thoughts, but that's kind of what I'm picking up from her. I'm not a bodyologist. I can't say that her blink rate is up, but she is politely evasive, and I think it comes from more embarrassment if I'm reading it. Again, I'm an inside cat. I do more observing of people, but that's what I'm getting from her. Melanie Gibb has always bothered me, and it could be just my spidey sense being off, but I've always felt she knew more.
So if you had told the police back then that she was trying to, in fact, tell everyone that you could follow along with this belief of not repenting, you would have been truthful to the police back then?
Of course, yes.
Do you recall Lori ever talking to you about people having dark and light levels assigned to them?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall Lori ever talking about not needing to repent because she was translated?
I don't remember her using that specific word, but not to know.
What do you recall her saying with regards to that?
I remember her talking about changing physically and spiritually. Those are the two I remember.
And by changing physically, what do you recall of that?
Just being filled with more light and knowledge so that we could become closer to God.
So is that sort of the same as when we're talking about being translated?
Yes. I just don't remember
Okay,
that.
here's the problem with Lori's thing. Now, maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm a horrible person, but she's translated herself into this chick. Again, I love this movie. It is all of the chaos, like most. I think John Waters did it, but hatchet face. Again, the eyebrows, the hair, she is hatchet face now. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is Lori incarnate. I mean, oh no, she died? I feel terrible. She's actually a beautiful woman when she's not, all hatchet-faced. But I would think that if you're becoming a spiritual leader to all of us and Jesus, that you would turn into something beautiful, not hatchet face. That being said, every time I see her, I think hatchet face. Watch the movie. It is a ball of chaos, but it has Johnny Depp in it.
For saying that specific word.
Okay.
And he
So the
sings.
concept was the same, whether or not she said that word, you don't recall now.
Correct.
Did Lori ever talk to you, either that weekend or prior to that, about casting?
Yes.
Do you recall if Lori was the person who brought up casting?
I believe she was, from my memory.
Casting? Are we getting sage out? I feel like she's a chick that has sage.
Do you recall if she talked to you about casting on more than one occasion?
Yes.
Now, how many times do you recall that she had brought this up?
I don't know how many times.
It was more than once?
Yes, it was more than once.
Did she ever bring it up while you were talking or Zoom talking like we used to do in the pandemic?
I never Zoom called with her. I don't.
Phone call?
Phone calls? Yes.
So at least one phone call you recall.
Okay, lady lawyer for the state, I'm going to need you to clarify for those of us in the jury on YouTube what the actual foggy hell is casting. Are we casting spirits out? Are we casting, I don't know, translatedness? What the hell is casting? Again, these are some things that I do think that lawyers struggle with, kind of getting in the mind of juries because they have to remember all of the legal procedural things. But I think it's imperative, and that's why I really liked Bob Alessi in the Karen Reed case, because he made the witnesses agree on definitions, because there are different words and different meanings, and understanding what the witness means by certain language is extremely helpful. It was the big problem between Dr. Russell and Hank Brennan. He fundamentally didn't understand that superficial wounds don't mean that they were not bad. It simply means that it only went into the dermis of his skin, not into the inner fat or muscle layer. So there was a fundamental misunderstanding of the word, superficial, because it means something different in medical terms than it means in legal terms or in lay people's terms. So hopefully they'll figure out what casting is. But I do think lawyers struggle to put themselves in the layperson's shoes. While they deal with procedural things, we tend to notice and tend to question things that they might think are obvious, but really need to be defined better.
That she brought up casting?
That I remember one phone call. There might have been others. I just don't remember.
So was that phone call, to the best of your memory, before this girls' weekend in March of 2019?
From my memory, I think it was after, but
So then let's talk about the weekend of March, the girls' weekend in March of 2019.
okay.
Did Lori bring up casting there?
Yes, she did.
And the other time when Lori had talked about casting, whether it was before or after, was this to sort of cleanse society, sort of a generic, I don't want to say generic, but to try to cleanse evil from an area or a population, not a specific person?
Yes, it was like generally a cleanse or casting out evil.
Have you on your own sort of prayed to get rid of evil?
Yes.
I'm genuinely confused here. I get it. I get the power of group prayer and everything, but just a generic, like, let's send out positive, no crime vibes. Again, I cannot control what my face does, and my face would be doing, we're doing what now? You're not going to give me Kool-Aid, right? I mean, that's kind of what I would be thinking. That being said, I wouldn't say it out loud. My face would, but I would realize I'm in the middle of a cult and I can't let them know that I think they're cray-cray.
I have.
Is that sort of a personal casting that you've done? If we want to term it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't term it that way, but yes.
Okay. Would you just term it as you're praying for the better of the world?
Praying and or casting out evil. Yes, in the name of Jesus Christ.
But you said you had never used casting as a term before.
No.
Okay. So Lori was the one using this word
Wait a minute. Does this mean that if I convert, I can go touch people and cast them out? I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a televangelist, not for good reasons. I may or may not be part of the young feralness, but I always wanted to be a faith healer so I could touch people and then they would faint and it wouldn't be assault. I was a weird kid, but that was kind of my goal. And then I saw Tammy Faye Baker and I realized I have no time or talent or desire to wear that much makeup. And the songs got me. Look, it's going to be unpopular. I will go ahead and state it. But if we could just have church without the singing bits and we could get to the sermon and get in and out in like 35 minutes, I would forgo all the singing. That being said, I know it is a lot of people's jam. They love the choir. They love, singing. It's the way they worship. But for me, if we could cut all that out and just do the sermon, I'd be super okay with it.
casting.
I don't recall her using that word. I think she was also saying casting out from my memory.
So casting out.
Is that-
When you met up on this girls'
I'm sorry,
weekend,
was the last answer a yes?
this was the first, I guess, Lori was the one using the term casting out.
Yes.
On this March girls' weekend trip, do you recall having Lori ask everyone to help cast out as to a specific person?
Yes.
Can you tell us who that was?
It was her husband, Charles.
Had you ever met Charles before?
I respectfully ask if anyone is going to try to remove my evil spirits and or inner child who is kind of sadistic. But she's funny as hell, not gonna lie. I mean, she's a real bitch, but she delivers sarcasm at the right moment. I would like to be told if I'm getting evil cast out of me, just, to be aware, like if I'm in Target or something trying to get a Stanley Cup and you guys finally get the evil spirit and I don't buy the Stanley Cup because Stanley Cups don't have curse words on them. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they don't even put like funny, like this might be vodka on it. So I'm not into the Stanley Cup, but I would like to be informed if someone's going to try to cast out evil on me. No offense. I just like, I'd like a card or something like, hey, this is Joe Schmo and just let you know, we exorcised all your evil. I mean, I'd kind of like to know so I could go out the next day and see if it worked.
Or
Vague memory, but it was a quick, I think, meet as I was leaving Arizona for the Preparing of People conference in November. I was going to the airport and I think he was coming in at the same time. Again, it was pretty chaotic,
yeah.
but I think that's when we met very briefly.
So he was kind of coming home and you were leaving.
Yes.
Did this seem unusual to you to do this, to be asked to cast out as to a specific person?
Yes. But not. Did you say unusual?
Yeah, did it stand out to you, her asking you to cast out as to her husband?
Yes, it stood out to me.
During this weekend, did Lori talk to you about her husband, Charles Vallow, being possessed?
Yes, she did.
What do you recall about her talking about her husband being possessed?
I recall that she spoke about her husband being possessed by an evil spirit, and she named the evil spirit.
Do you recall what the name was?
No one looked at her and say, heifer what? I mean, I know she probably didn't invite people back that said heifer what, but at some point, something she says must have just gotten your spidey sense. I mean, she's naming demons. Again, not really hip to the LDS. Maybe possession is kind of a thing and casting out the possessed spirit. But I feel like they're on my, recovered Catholic turf. I feel like Catholicism has the market on exorcism. I don't know. I kind of feel like they're taking our stuff. Like we did that first, damn it. We also did the Spanish Inquisition. So, swings and roundabouts. You know, if the Catholic Church can't figure out who's possessed, I don't think Lori could. That being said, I don't think anyone can.
Yes.
What was it?
It was Ned.
N-E-D? Ned?
N-E-D.
When you heard this, did that stand?
Not Bathamel, not Beelzebub, not, any of the ones named in the Bible. Ned. I feel kind of bad for a demon named Ned. I mean, he's trying to be all demonic, like, oh, I'm evil. I'm going to make you do sinning. My name is Ned. Also, how does one get an evil spirit in their body? Do they eat your enchiladas and then it opens a portal to the dark side because of lack of seasoning and caucasity? I mean, I don't know. But I do kind of feel bad for, the demon named Ned. You feel like you'd get like a really cool name like, Virtue Slayer or Evil Incarnate. But Ned. I mean, he sounds like he goes door to door like, hi, my name is Ned. I'm trying to sell a bunch of magazine subscriptions so I can, go to a trip to hell to a seminar to get to a higher level in our multi-marketing scheme. Would you allow me to possess you today for just 6 weeks, and then I can go on the tour to get to the next level of Cutco knives?
Stand out to you as well?
Very much, yes. Very unusual.
Are you someone who questions things, or
Yeah.
do you just go with the flow?
I question things.
So you're hearing these things from Lori that are standing out to you, some of them very against your religious beliefs. Are you starting to ask about some of these things?
Yes. I remember I was asking a lot of questions about the repentance thing she brought up. And I remember asking and talking to some of the other ladies about the casting out in a group setting before, or stuff like that.
Do you recall Lori Vallow telling you that her husband Charles was no longer Charles, that he was now this possessed person?
Yes.
When Lori was talking to you about Ned, was she explaining that this evil spirit was now in the body of her husband?
Like a tapeworm?
I don't know if she used those exact terms, but that was the impression I got, yes.
So
Oh my God, did she give him undercooked pork chops and with the tapeworm came the parasite, came Ned? I'm beginning to see a pattern. Do not eat where Lori cooks.
the word she used expressed to you that idea that this evil spirit Ned was now in her husband's body.
Yes.
So did you ever hear Lori use the term zombie?
I did.
Is that another thing that kind of stuck out to you?
Very much.
In listening to Lori, did zombie sort of did you understand that to mean someone whose body was possessed by an evil spirit?
Well, prior to this, I had thought zombie was like a Hollywood thing, but she tried to relate the zombie and correlate that to the evil spirit that was inside of somebody.
Like her husband?
Like her husband, yes.
So possession is like the T virus in Resident Evil? I'm just trying to understand.
Did you ever start to question Lori about zombies and these evil spirits inhabiting her husband's body? Did you try to question her about that?
I don't recall specifically.
When you started questioning her, at least about repenting that you recall, did you see a difference in how you were treated?
Soon after that girls' weekend, yes.
So let's talk about the group casting. What happened? What did you guys do for this group casting?
Y'all, all I am imagining is the end of Practical Magic where they got all the women from the town and someone brought a dustbuster. This is what I'm imagining. I know this is my headcanon, but all I'm imagining is a bunch of tall, blonde, athletic women standing around with brooms and a dustbuster. I know that's probably wrong, but it's hilarious in my head.
For her husband, Charles.
All the ladies came together and we were all in the same room just talking. And I remember coming together. I don't remember if we were standing or sitting, but I remember Lori started and asked for this help for her husband because she needed to cast out this evil spirit. And she asked to just go around the room and each of us take turns casting out to see if we could get rid of this evil spirit within him.
Ned. And this was the first time you'd ever had anyone ask you to be part of some group to cast out,
Yes.
and a group to cast out evil spirit as to a specific person.
I've never done that in a group setting before. Never even heard of that.
Now, again, not an LDS master or learned person, but I do know that women are not allowed in the priesthood. I do believe the priesthood gives you some more authority, like a godhead authority. Again, not, but to do certain things. And I don't believe that. I believe this is probably deeply wrong for her because women don't generally do this, beyond like a generic, let people be nicer. That being said, I could be very wrong. So take everything I say with a grain of salt.
That before.
After this weekend, let me ask you, how many days do you recall that you were here?
For which?
That March?
That March?
Yeah.
Just a couple days. I don't recall how many. Just a couple days, though.
Okay. So
Like a weekend, maybe?
just the weekend type of thing.
Approximately.
During that time, do you recall just the one evening where Lori had asked you and the other women to cast out this evil spirit and her husband? Was there just one incident that weekend that you recall?
One incident. I'm sorry, I don't understand the
Over
question.
the March Girls Weekend, was there just the one time where Lori asked the group to cast out Ned from her husband?
From my memory, yes, I think so.
Had you heard on, though, more than one occasion, Lori saying that her husband was possessed?
More than one occasion on that weekend, or like,
Or either that weekend, or had you previously heard that?
I don't recall previously hearing that. And I don't remember hearing it after how many times she said that.
Was it discussed throughout the weekend?
I believe so.
Let's go ahead and recess for lunch. We'll resume at 1:30 p.m. I'll tell the jurors to remember the admonition.
All rise for the jury.
Is that Colby there with the little man bun? And I do think it's appropriate to take time to acknowledge that Colby, Lori's only living child, has to deal with the aftermath of what his mother did, taking his siblings, the guilt that he probably feels very wrongly. It's not his guilt, it's not his burden to carry, but the fact that he probably feels like he didn't protect his siblings. I couldn't imagine what all of this has done to him, and I hope that he goes forward and lives his best life in spite of everything Lori's done.
Thank you. So we were talking before lunch, and you have told us that you sort of spent 2 weekends getting to know Lori Vallow, correct?
Yes.
That was the November of 2018 visit,
With a lot of other people there, correct? Yeah.
and then the March of 2019 visit.
Yes, the girls' weekend.
And that was a much smaller group of people.
Correct.
And I think you had said that as Lori started expressing some of these beliefs that went against the LDS religion, that you started sort of questioning her about this.
Correct.
After that, did you feel like she started pulling away or limiting her contact with you?
Yes.
You told us that you had moved to Arizona in end of July or August-ish of 2019, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever see Lori again after you moved to Arizona?
Twice more.
Can you talk to us the first time that you saw her?
The first time I saw her, Zulema organized a girls' lunch to welcome me, she said. And so Lori was there. She came with Alex, her brother, and basically I said hi. And not much more than that. She sat on the other side of the restaurant, opposite of me. So, and not much contact there, but
Okay. And then what was the other contact you had with her?
I can't remember how it was organized. Perhaps at that lunch, Lori invited the women over to her house to just talk. And she had just lost her husband. And I don't know if I was included by accident or how that happened. I don't remember exactly, but I did go over to her house that night because here's somebody that I knew, and she had just lost her husband, which that's a big deal. And I wanted to find out how she was doing and what was going on.
Did you know anything at that time about the loss of her husband? Like what had happened?
I had heard vague things, but I had been across the country, so I didn't know any particulars.
Do you recall who was at the house that night?
Multiple women, but I actually don't remember who was there. I think Melanie Gibb was there.
Sorry about that. We had some construction shenanigans. So, since Mr. Moe has decided that maybe the teal won't work, I have gotten just a gajillion colors. I don't know what I'm doing. But he was telling me that, he's getting close to being ready for the paint colors. So I do have to make my mind up, somewhat in a hurry, which is not a good thing. I don't do making up my mind. So we're taping up all the samples to see what looks right. Sorry for the construction break, but we did need to talk about it because he's getting close and I need to make a choice.
And then a few other ladies, but I actually don't remember who.
And do you recall, was this still that same time frame of like either the end of July or the beginning of August?
Yes.
Can you describe for us Lori's demeanor at this meeting, this gathering at her house?
I would assume, like in my estimation, it was more like stoic. I didn't see any like mourning or crying.
Okay, this pisses me off. Look, grieving is going to look different for everyone. My grieving at first looked like really dark humor and bitterness. To be honest, it really was. It didn't look like it, it just was. And anger. So some people are able to cry. They cry in public. It's cathartic for them. Some people hide in the closet and cry there because these are big feelings. So I hate standing up for Lori at any point. This is more a general grief thing. Grief sometimes isn't performative. Sometimes it's very secretive. And it's going to affect people differently. So this whole they aren't grieving right thing kind of pisses me off because I'm sure people assumed I wasn't when everyone has different coping mechanisms. But Lori's always been 20 shades left of center, so judge away.
After that contact with Lori, did you ever see her again?
No,
Did you know that she had moved out of state?
no, not till long after she already had.
Did you know that she had married Chad Daybell?
Nope.
So basically, after paying your condolences, that was sort of the end of your contact friendship with Lori Vallow?
Yes, I think there might have been a few texts after that just to check up on her and see how she was doing. She had just lost her husband again. So, and I think she was trying to figure out how to move forward, and I was concerned. So, but nothing of substance.
Was your interactions with her via text very limited?
Yes.
No other questions, Your Honor.
Oh,
Cross-examination.
Lord. Lori.
Do you remember my chicken enchiladas?
Come on, legal Barbie. You can do it. You're from Timu.
Ms. Sharp, did you take an oath when you came into this courtroom today?
Yes, I did.
Oh, hell to the no on your mighty high horse mini Shetland pony. The hell you did not ask this woman if she took a vow of, honesty. Ma'am, you have never told the truth in the last several years. Where is Will Smith when you need him? Allegedly in Minecraft.
Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Did you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
The whole truth?
Yes.
Nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you who?
God.
So
Oh, Will Smith, where are you? Keep God's name out your mouth, Lori. I thought you were a god. I mean, at this point, do you even believe in like a greater being other than yourself? Get the hell off of this, ma'am. You are such a... The juxtaposition of someone who has unalived 2 children and, their partner's wife, either by, action or conspiracy, to then have the moral superiority to say, like, did you take an oath? Are you a perjurer? I mean, audacity must be on clearance, and Lori bought all of it.
can we agree that this court acknowledges that your testimony here today will be accountable to God?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance of this.
Sustained.
This is very much how Lori attacks. Lori always comes at things from a moral and biblical scriptural kind of authority that she lacks and twists. But she is hitting on something that she knows will make her very uncomfortable. Questioning her piety, questioning her honesty. These are all mean girl Regina George things to do. And ma'am, you are not leader of the plastics. You are not Regina George. No one wants to follow you. Stop trying
Your
to
Honor,
make fetch
they brought
happen.
up the religion.
That's her response. It's sustained. Ask the next question.
Do you believe that your testimony here will be accountable to God?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Sharp, how many times did we meet in person?
4.
How many one-on-one conversations during those meetings do you think that?
So is she now Metatron, the voice of God? Because generally God doesn't speak to mere mortals because, he has God stuff to do. Are you now the front secretary receptionist for God? Do you figure out which prayers get answered and don't? I didn't know God had a secretary and or a gatekeeper, but thanks, Lori, for letting me know.
We actually had? Just you and me. Nobody else around. Just you and me.
Ew. None, thank God.
Maybe 2.
2 conversations in our whole lives.
Maybe
Just me
3.
and you.
You said during those meetings.
During the 4 times that we saw each other in person, how many times did you and I have a one-on-one conversation where other people were not in the conversation? Just me and you.
Mo answer, I didn't get alone with you because you scared the ever-living bejesus out of me, and I was just hoping to get out of the weekend alive. Again, courts hire me when you have a pro se defendant and you just want to, take the piss.
I can remember 3.
Okay? And how many times did we communicate on the phone?
Do you want me to estimate? I don't remember how many times.
Sure, just an estimate.
I'm not sure how to estimate that. Multiple times?
Like more than 10 or less than 10?
Probably more than 10.
More than 20?
I don't remember.
Okay. And text messages, the same. How many times do you think that we conversed via text?
We weren't dating. I don't remember. You're not my kind of chick.
I'm not sure how to answer that again.
Okay, so would it...
Multiple times.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that
Come on, Lori, you can do it. Make a question. Come on, do it.
some of the things that you remember are from other people and not actually from me to you directly?
Perhaps.
Okay. So in the instance when you said that I mentioned to you something about zombies, I would like to know what I said to you exactly verbatim about zombies.
Well, I remember we talked about zombies in 2019 for the girls' weekend. You had
Okay.
mentioned zombies.
I mentioned zombies at that weekend out of my mouth and not someone else, but me.
Object to
argumentative, being a dipshit, stupidity, and she is feloniously stupid. Again, if I ruled the world, stupid would be a felony. That being said, I would be in jail too, because I have my moments. Everyone does. But, I mean, really, we should be able to max them out.
Argumentative.
Overruled, you can ask, why don't you rephrase that question?
Okay. So you're saying, under oath, that I said the word zombies at that meeting, or
That's exactly what I'm
I'll go with
saying,
that.
yes.
To the best of my recollection, it was that weekend during the girls' weekend, 2019.
and
Again, that
I-
was 6 years ago. So like verbatim, I don't remember verbatim, but I think it was that weekend.
So it could have been that someone else was talking to you about zombies, but I was actually there also. Is that correct?
I'm going to object that the witness has answered that question and said it was her.
Overruled, she can answer.
Would you mind restating, please?
Is it possible that someone else said the word zombie and not me at that meeting when we were all there with the girls?
It's possible, but I don't think it was. I think
Okay,
it
then
was
what
you.
did I say exactly about zombies? I want to know the sentence I said to you about zombies.
Hold on,
Again,
ask questions, okay?
I
make
object to
statements.
asked and answered.
So rephrase your question.
What sentence did I say to you with the word zombie in it?
I'm going to object to asked and answered.
Technically, it has been asked and answered, but go ahead and answer.
Again, I don't remember verbatim. That was, what, 6 years ago?
So it could be possible that it really never came out of my mouth. Is that true?
No, what she's saying is she doesn't verbatim remember the quote because she probably was thinking, God, I just need to get out of here alive. That being said, most people don't have an eidetic memory or a photographic memory. Either one is kind of applicable. Eidetic is the more, I guess, smart term. That being said, most people don't have that, so they wouldn't be able to verbatim recount what you said. That being said, I probably could, but that's because I'm weird, and weird people doing weird thing kind of is my thing.
I'm going to object again to asked and answered now a third time.
Sustained.
Ms. Sharp, who are the three Nephites in the Book of Mormon?
The three Nephites? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
In 3rd Nephi 28, the three Nephites, do you know who they are?
Off the top of my head?
No.
No.
You do not know who they are.
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay. In the Bible, do you know of John?
Lori, you can know the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the doctrinal, I think there's 4 books in the book, so the Book of Mormon, and then there's Guide to Life and other things. I have been trying to research. I will say I'm a bit confuddled, but again, not as a derogatory thing, but I am trying to learn. And the fact is, most people, even pious people, even people that read the Bible, there's a lot of names, and the Book of Mormon has a whole other book to have to remember. So Lori gets her piety again from being able to memorize things, but not taking the word in and living by it. She is one of those Christians that makes the rest of us look flippin' ridiculous. Again, just because you know and can recite things doesn't mean you're living by the word. There's a big difference. I say this as the world's worst Christian, but it's Christians like this, it's religious people like this that turn people off from any spiritual connection to the beyond, because they get these sanctimonious asshats, reading scripture and trying to, again, heifer, you have been convicted of unaliving your children. I don't care if you know all the scriptures from every book from here to Mars. You don't live by it, so shut your damn mouth.
John the Revelator?
Yes?
Do you know of John the Revelator being translated?
I don't remember that, but
You don't remember that? What about in the Old Testament, Elijah? Was he translated?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance.
What's the relevance?
I've been accused of being out of the scope of the LDS religion when this is exactly in the scope of the LDS religion.
Sweetheart, I'm not here to help you, honestly. I hope you fall on every single slippery stair and, drop the soap allegedly in Minecraft. That being said, your excommunication is not why you're on trial. No one is well, everyone is questioning your morality. But this is not how you get back into the church. But this is not the trial of that. You do understand you're on trial for unaliving your husband, not for being a bad Mormon.
All right, I guess to the extent you're comparing yourself to these biblical figures, I'll allow it.
Was Elijah translated? Yes, I believe so.
Okay. But you don't know that John the Revelator was translated as well?
I can't remember.
And then
Who's John the Revelator? I know John the Baptist. Is it the same guy? Did he do more? Also, John the Revelator is such a great name. And then her demon is Ned. I will never understand that.
and the three Nephites in the Book of Mormon, they're translated as well?
No, there were 3. You asked me their names. I don't remember their
I
names.
wasn't asking their names. I said, do you know who they are?
Heifer, you did. You were like, you don't know the names. Okay. Like you're a bad Mormon. Again, everyone's journey with the great, unanswerable things, religion and creation should be their own and not judged. I have plenty of stuff I got to work on with me and clean in my own spiritual room before I say anything to anyone. I understand it's hypocritical because we are on the Petty Express, but there you go.
As in, are you aware of them? I'm sorry. I'll be more specific. Are you aware of the three Nephites in the Book of Mormon?
Yes.
That they were translated?
Yes.
So is it fair to say that that isn't uncommon in the Christian belief system, to believe in people being translated?
It's not uncommon, but usually there are other biblical signs. Again, I believe Elijah had a very great relationship with the Lord, if you read the Bible, and they communed together. So generally there are other signs that you are right with the Lord, not unaliving people. That's kind of one of the commandments he said not to do. So yeah, you can get off this holier than thou train at any point, Lori. Because Carmen Sandiego and Where's Waldo would like to know where the hell you're going with this.
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question for all of Christianity.
Okay. Are you a Christian that believes
That is a great answer.
in the Bible?
Yes.
Object, Your Honor, to relevance.
I'll allow it briefly, but hurry up and make your point.
Yes, I believe
Find
in
a
the Bible.
point.
Of course.
And Elijah in the Bible is translated, right?
Yes.
And you believe in that, right?
Yes.
And you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that correct?
Correct.
So that would not be out of the scope of what you believe. That's all I'm asking.
Correct.
It's not out of the scope. What is out of the scope is declaring yourself with no other signs. Usually it's something that we can see. Again, I believe Elijah was taken up to heaven without having to die. That being said, I don't quite remember that one. Do need to read more. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Oh my God, the princess. That's all I wanted to know. Your Honor, I'm a Disney princess with a baby ponytail after the age of 50.
So when we were having this girls' weekend, what else did we do besides one prayer?
I remember going out to lunch, and we went to the temple, and we did service projects.
So we had a typical fun girls' weekend
Yes.
with 5 minutes of a prayer.
I don't remember how long that prayer was.
But basically, out of the 72 hours that we got together, 5 minutes of it we spent actually praying.
Again, I don't remember how long the prayer was, but that was not, from my perspective, the focus or majority of our time spent.
Okay. How long would you say that prayer was? 10 minutes? Longer?
I don't recall.
Okay. But a tiny portion of our whole fun weekend, right?
It was a small portion.
Lori, again, I don't understand the calculus of this. So for the majority of the weekend, we did mainstream stuff and we only did culty stuff just a little bit, just a scotch of the culty.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a pinch to make it interesting. A tap, a colt.
How many communications have you had over the past 5 years with Christina Atwood?
Many.
Like how many?
Again, I'm not sure how to estimate that.
Daily, weekly, monthly?
Weekly for sure, sometimes daily.
Okay. So would you say over the past 5 years that your relationship has grown with Christina?
Yes.
And are you related now?
To Christina?
Uh-huh.
No, we're not related.
Oh, as in-laws?
No,
Okay, I wondered. I didn't know.
no.
Your Honor,
This is not a beauty salon. You don't get to go like, who's your ancestor? What the hell in Ancestry.com and Walmart Rapture is this? I get what she's trying to do. The problem is that I can see what she's trying to do. She is wholly ineffective, but she is trying to minimize her sort of outlandish beliefs and to say that they were a fringe the entire time. And this witness is grossly overstating or overemphasizing the just tap of culty that they did. However, she's doing it in the most redonkulous way I've ever seen. It is actually a beautiful train wreck of stupid.
again, I'm going to ask that the defendant be told not to comment about the questions and testify.
Yes, the jury should just.
Mr. Jackson, keep the comments to yourself, Mr. Jackson. Jury, you are to ignore the comments of the lawyers. They are not evidence. You know, the one time we could have used Bev.
Disregard that comment after the answer.
Are you still in contact with Zulema Pastenes?
No, I haven't had contact with her.
Zulema penis. God love you. Bless the closed caption, for from them all absurdity flows. This is the best closed caption yet. Although Zulema penis sounds about right. Isn't she a love therapist? I have no idea what the hell that is. I think she cuddles with people. Again, this is all speculative and things I kind of sort of remember after a bad pain day, so take it with a pound of salt.
In a while.
Are you in contact with Kay Woodcock?
Who? I'm sorry?
Kay Woodcock?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. Are you still in contact with Nicole Earl?
Yes.
How often?
Often. Again.
Weekly or daily?
Weekly, sometimes daily.
Okay. What about Melanie Gill?
Aw, Lori's so pissed off that her friends aren't talking to her. She's like, oh, so you still talk to so-and-so. Well, they haven't sent me a card. No one wants to be your friend anymore, Lori. It kind of happens when you're a gross, disgusting, corroded dumpster water human.
Gib, are you still in contact with her?
No, I run into her occasionally, but
The judge look of what the actual hell is going on here. I love this judge. This judge has the best rusting, what the hell am I doing with my life face that I have ever seen. He is also a fair and really thoughtful judge, which I appreciate greatly. But I am here for his faces mostly.
You said
good
also in
Lord,
your testimony earlier that I said that I believe I don't need to repent and you were shocked. Is that correct?
yes.
What did I say to you exactly?
Again, I don't remember verbatim. That was over 6 years ago, but something to the effect of you didn't need to repent. Again, I don't know exactly, but, or we didn't need to repent, whatever it was, but yes, that's what I remember.
What was the context of that conversation? Like, how would that come up? I'm like, how would that come up?
Lori, I don't know how your mind... I mean, you probably did it after you guys had a dirty soda or some sugary thing.
I don't remember what we were talking about or how that subject was brought to the forefront, but it was, I definitely remember that comment.
You remember that coming out of my mouth to you specifically, not from someone else, but from me to you.
Oh my God, let me be a witness. Yes, it came from your flippin' flapjack mouth hole. I remember it because you took in air and then stupid came out. Again, courts, hire me if you have a pro se defendant. I will take the piss. I know it's not going to help the judicial system, but I think it would be cathartic for all of us.
Directly.
Yes, and it was, I think, in front of all of us, but I'm not very clear on that. I think it was to all of us from you.
So was I teaching a class that you attended and said something in that regard?
No,
Why would I be the one speaking?
Probably because you're always the one speaking. Again, you have main character syndrome like I've never seen.
sometimes we take turns when we speak.
Speculation as to why the defendant would be speaking?
I'll let the answer stand. She answered.
Come on, Lori, you can do it. Put a little pro se to it. Find a question somewhere. It's there, in the murky depths of your
Being
horrid pit of a
uncomfortable.
mind.
On that weekend, is that correct? With some of the topics?
Yes.
Why didn't you just leave? If you were so
She didn't have a car, you absolute numbnuts. You guys basically kidnapped her, took her to a house she wasn't expecting, and then made her sit in these absolute weird classes, and then made her cast out an evil spirit on a man she didn't even know. I mean, at that point, I would have called Uber and said, GTFO now. Like, I would have packed my crap. Now, apparently, she didn't feel the weird as much as I would have, because there is no way in hell.
uncomfortable.
I was uncomfortable with some of the topics, but I was still there with friends, and I had flown across the country, so it was not easy to leave, and I didn't feel like I needed to leave at that point.
But you're a grown woman, right? You have your own mind and ideas.
Fuck right on off, Lori. Screw you sideways with a cactus. I can't.
Yes, of course.
So would it be fair to say that you didn't disagree so much at the time, but now looking back on it, you disagree?
I don't think that's a fair comment. No.
And would it also be fair to say that we had a good time at that weekend,
Yes, we did have a good time.
and that now you've changed your mind a little bit?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Change my mind about what?
About what made you uncomfortable?
Lori, you just established that the majority of the weekend was good. So yes, the things that she was uncomfortable with were a small part. So now you're trying to elevate this discomfort that she had to a level where she wanted to leave. These are two different thought processes. You either want to minimize the culty behavior or you want to draw attention to it. These are two different ideas in the same cross. Interesting.
Comfortable.
No, I didn't change my mind.
You had mentioned something about
Come on, I know it's coming. Come on, you can do it. For the love of Cheetos, find a question or get
Is that correct?
down.
Yes,
how many times?
twice.
Who were you interviewed by?
The first time a detective came to my home, his name was Nate Moffat, I think.
Okay. When was that about, approximately?
I want to say spring 2020.
Okay. How long was that interview?
I don't remember.
Like an hour or less, or?
And Your Honor, the witness has already answered the question. She doesn't remember.
Can you estimate how long that interview was?
Well, from my memory, I don't remember it well. I thought it was only a few minutes, but
Okay.
I think it was longer than that, perhaps.
Longer than a few minutes?
Yes.
What about your second interview? Who was that with?
That was with 2 detectives from Idaho
And where did that take place?
in the Chandler Police Station.
And how long was that interview?
That one I remember being longer, for sure, over an hour, perhaps an hour and a half.
And what did you exactly have to contribute to the police for an hour and a half with someone that you have only met 3 times in person in your life?
Objection, speculation, relevance.
Sustained.
What were they interested in you telling them?
And I'm going to object
How
to
batshit you
speculation,
were?
relevance.
Sustained.
What did you tell them about me in those interviews?
Objection,
No one cares. Lori, she doesn't want to be here. The woman is so uncomfortable. She's standing straight, sitting straight up and kind of giving herself a hug. This woman wants nothing to do with you. Do you think she liked the fact that she had to go to the police station and probably talk to her bishop and stake president about all the unholy bullshit you were talking? No, she doesn't want to be here. No one cares about you. Everyone would be happy if you never showed up in person again. I mean, I'm not saying you're gone to the spiritual world. I'm just saying you're in an ISO cube somewhere. And JKD Buck, thank you for your Modly Mod duties. I appreciate it. And you have been a wonderful addition to the Modly Mod crew. I appreciate all of you because, as I have said, I have no idea. People have made me a mod and I'm like, I don't know how to put up links. I don't know how to do anything. Don't make me a mod. With great power comes possibly knowing how to work the internet, which I don't.
overbroad,
Well,
foundation.
also calls for hearsay.
Yeah,
Sustained.
Do you feel like you have something to offer here today in relation to the crime that I'm charged with?
objection, relevance, goes to the final
Sustained.
opinion.
Also, she wouldn't know what, again, she is just here offering evidence. She is not here to kind of give a motive or, what in the hell is this woman?
Ms. Sharp, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother or anyone else to murder my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, I did not.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect.
You were asked a lot about taking an oath. Do you take that seriously?
Yes, I do.
Is everything that you told the jury here today the truth to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my memory and knowledge, yes.
So when you don't remember something, you've been asked to try to guess, you don't remember how long something is, but you're not making up things in here.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying to go for my best memory.
It's been 6 years since you attended these meetings, correct?
Correct.
So you don't remember the number of phone calls that you and Lori had 6 years ago?
No, not at all.
You didn't keep tally marks of them through your days and put them on your nightstand so you could remember it later?
No.
How about the text messages? You tally those up for you so later on you'd be able to remember that you had 50 of them or 100 or whatever it was?
No, definitely not.
Are there things that stand out in your memory that you recall very well?
Yes, there are.
Is one of those the fact that Lori Vallow told you that you didn't need to repent or that she didn't need to repent?
Yes.
Was another one of them her telling you that her husband was possessed by an evil spirit that she named Ned?
Yes, definitely remember that clearly.
You were asked
Ned the Destroyer.
about whether being translated was something unusual to you. When you are reading the Book of Mormon or the Bible, are there biblical figures within those books who are translated beings?
Yes,
Was it not something that you had heard people tell you that they were?
correct. I
And
never
that's-
heard that before.
So you read about it,
Yes.
by prophets and people like that?
Yes.
Okay, so the only thing I can relate this to is if someone tried to beatify themselves. As I said, I used to be Catholic, and it is a very sort of legalistic, ritualistic thing. And in order to become a saint, you have to be beatified and you have to go through kind of a proving ground or different things you have to achieve and be noticed and recognized in order to become a saint. Again, stupid on the Book of Mormon, but I'm guessing there are some similar kind of tests or things to make sure you are transmogrified.
You were also asked about that girls' weekend, and I believe that the defendant said that you did a prayer. Did you have more than one prayer over the weekend? Did you guys pray together?
I can't remember specifically, but I assume we prayed over the food and we prayed up, there was probably multiple prayers, my guess.
Is that different than when you guys met to cast out the evil spirit of Ned inside of Charles Vallow?
Yes, that felt different.
So you wouldn't equate a prayer as identical to doing a cast out?
Correct. There are different kinds of prayers.
You were asked about why you stayed there that weekend. As someone who was a grown woman and strong in your faith, did you in fact question Lori when she talked about not needing to repent?
I don't remember how I responded. I definitely pondered that for a while. I remember talking to others. I can't remember if I spoke specifically with Lori about that at that time.
You were, even though that was something you knew not to be within your faith, you didn't just pack up and run away.
No.
Were there other women there that you were also friends with?
Yes.
People who you're still friends with?
Yes.
These women that you are still friends with, is anything about your relationship with them changed the fact that you remember Lori saying she didn't want to repent?
I don't think so.
Like you didn't say, hey, Christina, I feel like just making up something to say against Lori. What do you think we should talk about?
No.
You didn't sidle up to Nicole and say, Nicole, let's make up a story about Charles being possessed by Ned. What do you think?
No.
Those are just your memories.
Those are my memories.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Are there any questions from any member of the jury? If so, please pass those questions forward. I'm not seeing any. All right, you can step down, ma'am. Staking for the next one.
Thank you.
Come on, jury. I would be nosy as hell. I'd be like, so seriously, you weren't scared to death when they started talking about evil spirits? Because I did GTFO. That being said, none of my questions would probably be appropriate. Hatchet faced herself.
Come right up here and be
I will
sworn in.
get
Just
better
stand
at that. Baker is the king at being able to.
I do. My name is William McDonald, W-I-L-L-I-A-N. McDonald, M-C-D-O-N-A-L-D.
The mic. Get towards the mic.
Order here, and I'll sit to my left.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is William McDonald. I am a retired police officer with the city of Chandler.
What are you currently doing?
I am currently teaching criminal justice at Williams Field High School in Gilbert, Arizona.
I feel so bad for this man. I know it's Canton trauma, but now a police officer with a bald head, and it's just triggering. I'm like, I don't know if I believe him. He seems nice, but I'm still like, I have trooper fatigue. I swear to goodness. Let's give him a chance, though.
So you told us you previously worked for the Chandler Police Department. How long were you with them?
I was with the Chandler Police Department for approximately 22 years. I'm sorry, 26 years.
Oh, that's a big difference. When did you retire?
I retired in November of 2022.
Okay. Can you tell us what your different jobs were at the Chandler Police Department?
As with all officers with the Chandler Police Department, I started off in patrol. I worked a patrol position.
Also, I am just going to be super ADHD, weaponized level. I do apologize, but after bad pain days, I tend to be a little bit more flitty and give in to the squirrels. That being said, I applaud this man for going to teach high schoolers. They do have, my daughter's high school had like vocational things where they could take classes about criminal justice. And I think it's a great way to get kids involved and kind of learning about our legal system. We have failed a lot of this generation, in my opinion, by not having civics classes and maybe legal classes. Just get ready for life classes so you can understand that they don't have to Mirandize you if they're detaining you. It's not till they interview you, morons. However, continue to remain silent, which none of them usually can.
For about 18 months, after which I switched over to more of a community services team. I spent 2 years with that team, after which I transferred to detectives and spent the remainder of my career in detectives, working primarily internet crimes against children and digital forensics.
Oh,
Can you talk?
also, thank you, sir, for getting the real monsters out there. I can't imagine what he had to see with the child exploitation. I'm sure that it haunts him. I'm sure that those cases haunt him. So thank you for, being a person that has to see all the grossness and catches the monsters.
To us about specifically your training and education relating to extractions of cell phones.
When it comes to cell phones, I have extensive training in the use of the
That's
software
so
that we
bright.
use to extract that data. I am certified in the use of the Celebrite suite, which is one of the primary tools that we would use to extract data and organize data extracted from the cell phones. I was also trained, although they did not have a certification process, in several other platforms used with cell phones.
Did you ever go to any type of digital evidence examiner courses?
Absolutely. Beginning in 2001, when I began working digital forensics, I attended numerous courses on digital forensics, hundreds of hours worth of training, and I hold several certifications in digital forensics related to computers and, as previously discussed, cell phones.
So by 2019, what were your duties at that time at the Chandler Police Department?
By 2019, my primary duties were to conduct digital forensics examinations on computers and cell phones. I was also responsible for training new members to the computer crimes unit, in addition to assisting with internet crimes against children investigations.
In your role, were you regularly asked then to examine cell phones and try to extract data from them?
Yes, I was.
Can you talk us through, if you are handed a cell phone, what do you do?
Once we received the cell phone, and we would usually be given additional information at the time, usually from the case agent or the investigating detective, such as if there was a search warrant involved or anything like that. We would review the search warrant, make sure we had legal authority to do whatever it was they were asking us to do. We would then
Looking for authority, making a thorough investigation. Be still my heart. I thought it was a miracle, and I never see it again.
obtain the cell phone or whatever item we wanted to examine. My process was to start by taking pictures of the phone or the device prior to removing it from any evidence packaging. Once those pictures were taken, I would remove the cell phone from the packaging, take additional pictures to document condition of the device. Once the pictures were taken, I would attempt to power on the device to make sure that it had been placed in airplane mode, which would prevent any additional changes being made or outside people being able to access the device and make changes while it was in our possession. If it was in airplane mode, I would then attach it to whatever piece of software or hardware we were going to use to copy or extract the information from the phone. Once that process completed, which you would usually create just a single file, which for most of us would be meaningless. It was just a container file. And by a container file, I mean a file similar to, if you think like a box. The container file is the box. Initially, that box is empty, and we can put additional files inside of it. These container files would then...
Holy ballsack, y'all. This man is telling me things about the cell phones, and I'm understanding and receiving it. Where were you in Canton? Sir, we needed you. Because between Ian Whiffen, head scarf, Mac counter lady, and Detective DeGorgio, I don't know. Between the three of them, I still don't understand damn cell phones. And now this man is explaining Celebrite in a way I understand. Sir, I'm verklempt. Where were you? You let us suffer.
then be entered into, usually we would use the Celebrite software, as we did in this case. And that software would kind of go through the box and put everything in an organized manner, a manner in which people could read it and make sense of what that information was. We would then create a report, which we would provide to the case agents, and that would pretty much conclude our involvement. We would finalize everything by taking everything that we created, all of our files, all of our reports, notes, pictures, everything, and we would store them on an archive server at the Chandler Police Department.
All right, I'm going to go through a couple different words you said and have you explain them for us, all right?
Certainly.
So starting with first, extraction. What does that mean?
Simply put, extraction means we're copying the information on the phone to another device, say a thumb drive or another hard drive or something that we have prepared forensically, which means it contains no data.
So when we're talking about extraction from, say, a phone, you're talking about you're copying contact lists and text messages and photos and emails or search histories, anything that we have on our cell phone.
Correct.
Okay. Can extraction of a cell phone include GPS or locating data?
It can.
When you have extracted this, you talked about it not being in a format that people can understand. Can you talk to us just a little bit more about that?
So essentially these single files, when we have copied or extracted the information from the cell phone, it creates this single container file where all of the information is in there. That information is in the form of database files, other proprietary type files that without appropriate software or specific software to actually be able to read that information, it would be extremely difficult to piece it back together manually.
And so that's what you said, the Cellbrite software helps to put that in a way that we can read it?
That is correct.
So when you use the Cellbrite system, does that put the data together, like all of the text messages are now together and all of the emails are now together,
Yes, ma'am.
rather than just being jumbled everywhere, basically?
Correct. It will put text lines together. It will extract date and time information, as you mentioned.
All right, we're taking a slight detour because this might call. I am praising this man for explaining Celebrite in a way I can understand, but it also scares me that it might be a sign that Final Form Jesus is finally coming because I am understanding computer magic-y stuff.
The key keep its grove, thou glowing shrine of thirst traps, scams, and dollar signs. We chant in tones both grim and low, for virtue fled a long time ago. Kyrie eleison, Christe descendat, Final Form Jesus return in wrath. With six-pack listening, sword in hand, he cometh swift to cleanse the land.
Every time I played that, I see Mr. Mo's face in a disapproving way because he's like, you are going to get struck by lightning. And I'm like, I think Jesus has a sense of humor. He created me. So by the transitive property, he is sassy too. At least that's what I tell myself.
Mentioned previously, it can extract GPS and location information. It will extract pictures, and it puts all of those together so that like items are together.
Are you responsible for reviewing or analyzing whatever it is that you extract?
No.
Are you solely responsible for trying to extract the data from a phone, ensuring that that process goes correctly and that it is then parsed into data that lay people can read?
Yes, ma'am. When we extract the data from phones or computers or whatever digital medium we're working with, we follow forensically sound procedures to ensure that that data is not changed at any point along the process.
And so you said you also keep the original data file that you extract in a server so that if anyone wants to look at that, they can do that again?
Correct.
And then the phone itself, does it alter the phone in any way when you do this process? Is it blank after that?
Our process should not change any of the information on the phone. However, with cell phones, because they do need to be on during this process, some system files can change.
So it could add more data to it potentially?
Potentially, yes.
All right, so on July 16th of 2019, did you receive a request from a detective in Clan to examine an Apple iPhone that was impounded as item CH131035? And if I can have my paralegal approach with Exhibit 245?
It is just so refreshing to see a police officer doing all of these steps
Thank you.
and being, transparent, taking photos. It's just a
Yes,
breath
this is
of fresh
consistent with the
air.
item I received.
Were you provided with a PIN to access that phone?
We were.
Okay, and what was the PIN you were provided to access that phone?
The PIN was 0000.
All right, pretty easy to remember. And
What in the, at least I pick random number, real 000. What in the space balls is this?
you can bring that back. What day did you begin the extraction process?
I believe, if I recall correctly, it was July 17th.
So the next day.
Yes, ma'am.
You told us that you first get the phone and you are both documenting it and sort of noting it. I'm going to show you, and if I can have my paralegal approach with exhibits 180 through 185 that have been shown to defense counsel. Are you familiar with those photographs?
Yes, these are consistent with the types of photographs that I would take.
And those related to this review of this cell phone 245.
Yes.
State will move to admit 180 through 185.
Any objection?
No objection.
180 through 185 are admitted.
And if you are new to trials, this is fairly typical. There will be someone that they bring in to establish foundation and chain of custody, and they won't really speak to the evidence or anything gleaned from that. This is fairly typical. These are more foundational witnesses. But if you're new to trial, you might think, goodness, why did they have this guy on when he didn't do anything? So I do, again, caveat, I am not a lawyer, but I've watched enough trials that, I can kind of give a little insight about what's going on. And if you're new to watching trials, it can be a little confusing as to why they do this.
And if I can have Elmo, thank you. Why do you take photos of the phone as you're processing it?
Primarily, we take photos of the phone to document condition. I will also take photographs of the item while it is still in the evidence packaging to document how it was packaged, and if there are any evidence seals, what the condition of those seals are.
All right. So in this, when we talked about a item number, is that what we were talking about, the CH131035?
Correct.
Okay. And that's exhibit 180 and 181. What are we seeing here?
That is a photograph of the front screen of what appears to be an iPhone X, I believe, or XS Max.
So
I'm sorry.
you get this phone, and I put 182. It's turned off initially when you get it.
In this case, this particular phone was powered on when I received it.
Okay, but the screen was blank, but still it was powered on.
Correct.
Was it in airplane mode, and why does that matter?
Yes, it was in airplane mode, and you can see that from looking at the upper right-hand corner of the phone screen where it's got the little airplane icon. And this is important because while a phone is in airplane mode, it will prevent outside sources from connecting in and prevent the phone from connecting to the cellular network or to any wireless networks, which will help secure the data that's on the phone to prevent any changes or from anybody from the outside accessing the device.
Okay. Do you check when you get a phone like this to see if there's a SIM card in there?
I do.
What is a SIM card?
A SIM card is a subscriber, it's short for subscriber identity module, and it's basically a little card that's inside the phone that holds certain subscriber information. It can hold contact lists. It can actually hold a great deal of miscellaneous information. We always check for the SIM card as a means to make sure that this phone is actually able to connect to a cellular network.
Did you see one here?
I did.
And then you also check to see if there's enough battery power.
Absolutely.
What do you do if there's not?
If we receive a phone that is either powered, has low power, or is actually the battery is completely dead, we will connect it to a power source to recharge the battery. The process is that we do require the phone to be able to be powered on, so we needed a charged battery.
All right, so in 183, you are able to get to where you would normally put in a passcode. Do you sometimes not have passcodes?
Absolutely.
Is it easier when you do?
Much easier.
So did you try the 000 here?
We did.
0, I think I left one out. Were you able to get into the phone?
We were.
184, why do you take a photo of that?
We're just documenting what is visible on the screens, what icons, what applications are installed on the phone.
So you're seeing that there have been phone calls that have been missed and mail that's
Correct.
going on. And then 185, what is the relevance of this? What does this tell us?
That is simply information on the phone itself. What you are looking at, if it were able to connect to a network, you would see the network information there. This is obviously a phone that was associated with the Verizon cellular network. The IMEI and the ICCID and MEID are identifiers for the cellular networks. The network, the carrier, and all of that information is just to help identify the device.
Okay. And so that is able to be confirmed when you look at the phone itself, 245?
Correct.
So in this case, after you got this powered up, What'd you do and took those photographs, documenting what you're doing? What'd you do?
Once we had taken the photographs, we'd ensured everything, the phone was in airplane mode. In this particular case, I used a device called a gray key device. I attached the phone to this gray key device and configured it to conduct what is called a full file system extraction of the iPhone. A full file system extraction is pretty much the best copy that we can make. It copies all the data off the phone, including anything in deleted space, any user files, any system files. It pretty much copies everything that's on the phone for us to examine later.
Okay. Now, does technology continue to improve in our world?
All the time.
So you did this in 2019, right?
Correct.
So whatever the newer technology is not the same as what it may have been back then.
That would be fair to say, yes.
In terms of technology, have you seen changes in Gray Key and Celebrite over the years that you were using it?
I did.
And as each new version came out, did that ever cause you to find that data was wrongly recovered, or just that there was more data recovered?
In my experience, I never observed that changes in the software, updates to the software, would result in previously found data being changed or omitted or deleted or anything like that. What we would find is it would.
So this is something that often happens in trials with good lawyers. They will bring out a bad fact or something that the defense might pounce on or the other side might pounce on, and they bring it out in their own direct. I'm guessing just because of these lines of questioning that the phone was probably rescanned or re-uploaded with newer software at some point, maybe closer to trial. I believe that's what Lori has been, bellowing and whinging about. So essentially, she's making sure that the jury knows that, yes, they did do another extraction, allegedly, but in their experience, in his personal experience, another extraction has never led to, made up data or loss of data, but in fact, more data has been found.
Change the format and how that information was presented. On occasion, as things really did change and bigger versions came out, sometimes it would have the capability to acquire additional information that maybe it could not acquire prior.
So maybe it was better at finding deleted items or parsing things together.
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall about how long that process took to use the Gray Key to extract that full file system?
As I recall, it was approximately 1 hour.
So after you use the Gray Key, is that where sort of everything's jumbled in a box?
Correct. That's the Gray Key created that single container file with everything from the phone inside of it.
So did you use something else at that point to allow detectives and other people to be able to access and look for specific things?
I did. Once we have that single container file, I took that file and I opened it up in a program called Celebrite Physical Analyzer. That physical analyzer software is what went through that container file and put everything in a more readable format for detectives or whoever else needed to view the contents of the phone.
So that then allowed detectives or others to go into this new report that allowed you to look at a section that had just photos or a section that just had emails.
Correct.
After you used that Celebrite to parse out all that data into these different sections, did you conduct any research on that phone? Or
I did not.
did you look through any of that Celebrite report?
I did not.
Did you analyze or review any of the data?
I did not.
Did you provide the detectives who then had been working on the case with that to review themselves?
What we would do, since the Celebrite Physical Analyzer software was very expensive and actually required a key in order to use, the Celebrite software allowed us to create what we referred to as a reader file, which is a file that they can open in a program called Celebrite Reader, heavily enough, and that would allow them to review the data in a free software platform.
So as long as you had the reader, you could then go through all the data that the Celebrite had parsed into these readable formats. Or
Correct.
sections.
Anything that was included in when I imported the file or uploaded the file into the Physical Analyzer software, any information that was in the Physical Analyzer software was copied and included in the reader file.
Did that end your involvement with Exhibit 245, that phone?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Did that end your involvement with Exhibit 245, that iPhone?
Aside from making sure that any files that we created, any pictures that were taken were securely stored, it did.
All right, thank you. I have no other questions.
Cross?
Questions, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, did you say no questions?
No questions.
All right.
I didn't think she
Any
would.
questions from any member of the jury?
Again, he's a procedural witness or a foundational witness, so it's probably going to be And I will probably do a separate stream with Kay Woodcock because I believe that there are going to be cursey words. That's going to probably be a, grift for the curse jar because I don't know that I can get through that. I want to publicly state that I think Kay Woodcock has been a heroine in this case. Maintaining composure with all that she's lost and everything and having to deal with cross-examination by Lori. It's amazing how much grace and strength that she and her husband have shown through all of this. She is a rock star, in my opinion.
Jury? I see at least one. Okay.
And again, if you are new to trials, there are several jurisdictions, Indiana being one of them, that allow the jury to ask questions of witnesses. The procedure, though, is that both sides, both lawyers from the defense and the state, and the judge will look at the questions, decide if they're relevant or if they can even be asked, and then they will ask the witness. Then after that, once the witness answers that potential question, both sides will be allowed to question the witness on that particular topic. So just breaking that down a little bit, and Wolfram, have a lovely lunch.
Pull the history. The question is, if someone were to delete their browser history, can you still pull the history?
On occasion. Browser history and any internet data like that, especially on cell phones, over time, if it's been deleted, it can be overwritten. However, if it is more recent, and sometimes by recent, we are actually talking within the last year or so, that information, regardless of it being deleted, can be recovered by the software.
Good question.
Follow up from the defense based on that question?
No.
State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
State can call its next witness.
Thank you.
I do think that allowing the jury to have questions is a policy that all jurisdictions should take because I think it really can answer some questions. Again, I think that we are starting to notice a big kind of gap between the layperson and lawyers and how we look at cases. And I think bridging that gap by allowing them to clarify questions might help them be more informed and better, jurists. But that's just my opinion.
State calls Marissa Francisco.
All right, ma'am, you're going to come right up, stand right in front of the wall here, right here.
Please spell your name for the record.
Yes, Marissa Francisco, M-A-R-R-I-S-A, last name F-R-A-N-C-I-S-C.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right, you're going to walk around the court reporter. Have a seat just to my left here.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Marissa Francisco, and I am a forensic scientist with the City of Chandler in the Forensic Services section.
How long have you worked there?
I have worked there since August of 2018. Previous to that, I was employed at the Arizona Department of Public Safety, and I started there in 2000.
Okay, she just has a lovely voice. I need her to read me bedtime stories and tell me the world is going to be okay. That being said, I hear voices. I'm much more of an audio learner, which is odd. I can remember phrases and what people say kind of identically. That being said, she has a great voice. I just want her to say things and tell me the world is going to be okay.
2004.
So let's kind of go back. What did you do at the Department of Public Safety, DPS?
I started my career in the blood alcohol unit. So my duty there was to test blood for the presence of alcohol. I was in that unit for about 7 years. After that, I transferred to the trace evidence unit, where I was trained to do hair comparisons and fiber comparisons. After that, about 2016, 2017, I started training in the latent print unit. In August 2018, I completed my training at the City of Chandler and have been doing latent print analysis primarily at the City of Chandler.
Can you tell us the training and your education to be a latent print analyst?
Yes, I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry from the University of California at Los Angeles and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from the University of Illinois at Chicago. As part of my training for latent prints, it was an extensive 1.5 year long program where there was readings, lectures, comparison exercises, oral boards, and a competency test. I also have to
Competency test?
conduct and complete a proficiency test on latent print comparisons on an annual basis. I am also a certified latent print examiner. In order to obtain the certification, I had to complete over 160 hours of certified training and pass a comprehensive exam.
Thank you. I'm going to start sort of really general. Can you tell us what latent prints are?
Yes. Latent, by definition, is something that is present but not visible. So a latent print is an impression of friction ridge detail that is not readily visible. Some processing techniques that can be chemical or physical are needed to help visualize those latent prints.
So we talk about latent prints, and we're thinking of people's fingers. Where else where do we find latent prints on people?
Yes, let me start with defining what friction ridge skin is. Friction ridge skin are raised ridges on the palms of our hands and the soles of our feet. They are specialized and only located in those two areas. We often have oils and sweat and other residues on our hands, and when we touch an item, we can leave an impression of our friction ridge detail on that item.
Is that what most of us call latent prints, or I left a print behind?
I just want to say that I have been very impressed with this trial, this judge, the attorney for the state, but also their expert witnesses. They speak to the jury, they don't talk down to them, but they do translate their specialty into something that is easy to understand for the layperson. And I very much appreciate that. In Karen Reed, we had condescension or kind of confusing talk. And I really appreciate experts that can explain their field of expertise in a way that's not condescending, but delivers and translates the information of their specialty to the jury and to those of us that are watching.
Yes, fingerprints.
You started to talk about oils and things. Do people always leave behind a print if they touch an object?
It actually depends on a lot of different things. First off, the amount of oils and residues on our hands will determine whether an impression is left. Also, the deposition pressure, meaning are we gently tapping on something or are we like really pushing down on it, that will affect whether an impression is left and the quality of that print. The item itself is very important. Is it something that is receptive to prints? Items that are smooth, like glass, I am more likely to find a print on an item like that versus something that is textured and rough, like a cinder block. I would not expect to find a latent print on a cinder block. The condition of the item is also important. How many people may have come in contact with that item. All these different things affect whether an impression is left and the quality of that impression. We can very simply think of a stamp, our fingers being the stamps, the oils being the ink, and depending on how the stamp is placed on different items will determine how that impression looks.
Can environment also impact the quality of, or whether or not a print remains?
Yes, the environment is also important. After a print is left, is it left out to the conditions of rain, or does it get wet? Is there a dust storm? Is it in an area that it has high traffic? Like if a fingerprint is left on a door to a convenience store and 100 people go through there that day, impressions are left, but if I lift those prints, I might not be able to identify them because there are so many prints on top of each other.
And so that goes to the next thing. So are prints something that once you make it, it's permanent and there forever?
It is there until it is disturbed, so it can be there forever.
Can we wipe them away?
Yes,
Can they be smudged away?
they can, yes.
So can someone rubbing an object, like a smooth object, get rid of that?
Yes.
Please tell me this dingbat and her brother boyfriend put the bat in Charles's hand but didn't actually get his prints on it. Please, please tell me that these two morons, these mental midgets, tried to create a scene and didn't put his fingerprints on anything, because it just wouldn't surprise me.
Are there different ways or different processes that you use to obtain latent prints or friction-rich detail off of an object?
Yes, there are. First off, I want to define what a non-porous item is. A non-porous item is an item where water or air cannot pass through it. So when I first receive an item, I determine whether it is porous or non-porous, because depending on that, I will use different processing techniques.
So for a non-porous item, what processes do you use to try to find friction-rich detail?
Yes. On non-porous items, the main processing technique that I use is called cyanoacrylate fuming, more commonly known as superglue fuming. So items are exposed to
Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy, great movie. Everyone knows this because of that. He used super glue to get a print off a garbage bag, I think. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember watching that scene and being mesmerized by science catching someone and finding this print. That being said, when I realized to become a forensic scientist I would have to do a lot of math, it kind of closed that door.
superglue fumes, and the fumes react to any oils and sweat in the latent print, creating a white visible print that is not readily destroyed.
So you've looked at the non-porous item. You don't see any prints on. Do you look visually first?
Yes, sorry. The very first thing we do is I look at the request sheet and see what items are needing to be tested in that case. And also I look to see what the requesting officer wants done with the case. Sometimes they are requesting that the item be swabbed for DNA. If an item is requested to be swabbed for DNA, I have to use clean techniques to help reduce and limit contamination. So clean techniques are when I bleach down all surfaces with bleach, I lay down a clean butcher paper, I use sterile equipment. I'm only analyzing and working with one item at a time, and I'm changing gloves between items to help prevent contamination. So if a request sheet requests DNA evidence, I will have to use clean techniques before I swab the item for DNA. After that, I will do a visual examination of the item. Before any processing techniques are conducted, I will take a flashlight and look at the item to see if I can see any latent prints with a flashlight. If I can see a visible print at this point, depending on the quality of that print, I will take a picture or lift that latent before I move on to any processes. So after each processing technique, I will have to document what I find with either photography, scanning on a scanner, or lifting with powder.
So you talked about photographing these latent prints. How do you do that? Like how do you take a photograph of that to ensure it's the right size or shape or whatever, so you can later use it for a comparison?
Yes, I have training and experience in taking photographs. So in the photograph, I have to have a scale in it. So I have a scale with the case number, and I am just trained to properly use the lighting I need, adjust the lighting, focus it correctly, have it level with the lens of the camera, and I take a picture and document where on the item the photograph was taken.
Okay, I have a random question because I'm not in the internet world. I am on X, but I keep getting women from Ukraine who would like to talk to me and make friends. Now, that being said, I don't think they're the women from Ukraine. I don't think they're women at all. But I have the wrong equipment. I do state that I'm married on my profile. And as much as I've talked to Mr. Mo about getting a brother husband so he'd only have to deal with my crazy ass half the time, he hasn't gone for it. I have also thrown in that he wouldn't have to take out the trash but 2 times a month, but he still hasn't gone for it. And to be fair, I don't know that another person would want to deal with my crazy also.
So how do you just told us you document where on the item the picture was taken. How do you do that so that you can later go back and say it's in the middle of a mirror or whatever it might be?
Yes, I try to be as clear and concise as possible because, like I said, I have to take a picture after every single step. So I have to take a picture if there is any latent print of the visible step, and then if I go on to doing the super glue fuming, I have to take a picture of that same latent. If I go on to another process called dye staining, which we apply our fluorescent dye to even better visualize the image, I have to take that same latent again. So it helps me out to be able to go to find that latent. So I try to be specific on where that latent was found.
Do you, when you are processing a non-porous item and you find what I'll call a partial print or something that looks like friction-ridge detail, do you collect it or do you say right then and there, I don't think that'd be useful?
Yes. So when I am examining an item, at that stage, my conclusions are either no latents observed, meaning I didn't see any friction-ridge detail at all, no value latents, meaning I did see some friction-ridge detail, but I don't believe that I can do anything or compare them at a later point, or latents for analysis. So if I find sufficient, clear, latent print detail, I will take a picture of it. If I'm not sure, I go ahead and take a picture of it because at this point, I am not really determining whether the print is identifiable. I am just saying that I'm taking this picture and I want to do further analysis on it at a later point.
So then for the analysis, are you then, after you process an item and you recover any latent prints that may be useful or which are you later asked to ever compare prints to known prints?
Yes.
What do we mean by a known print?
Yes. So a known print is known fingerprints that are collected from an individual. They're typically recorded electronically or with ink. So in my comparisons, I am always comparing a latent impression that was recovered or developed versus a exemplar, and I'm trying to determine whether or not the latent could have originated from that exemplar or whether or not those two impressions could have been made by the same individual.
Can you tell us briefly, when you are looking at this recovered latent print and comparing it to a known, what are you looking for to be able to make an identification?
I will explain what methodology we use for latent print comparisons. It is called ACE-V, which stands for Analysis, Comparison, Evaluation, and Verification. So in the analysis phase, I'm taking an assessment of the latent and the exemplar and determining whether or not they are suitable for comparison. If I determine they are suitable for comparison,
You guys, this is totally fine. Tammy, sorry, Mo had to step away from the phone a bit. I was getting too upset. I get that. Again, these are not easy trials. Trials are never about like someone winning the lottery and having a great day. They're always heartbreaking. And take breaks. Your mental health is precious. It's much more, important than a sub or, a view to me. Take care of your mental health. You can always be on replay crew. If there are trials that are not for you that I'm covering, it is a-okay to not watch them. I want you guys to be mentally healthy and strong. And that means you guys know what's going to bother you and what's not. And honest to goodness, it's more important to me that you guys are okay than getting views or getting, I don't know, sponsors and all the other jazz. I just want you guys to be all right.
I move on to the comparison phase. This is when I'm observing two impressions and I'm looking for the existence of similarities, differences, or discrepancies. Next is the evaluation phase. At this point, I am rendering a conclusion based on my analysis and comparison. The three different conclusions that can be reached are identification, exclusion, and inconclusive. So identification is the determination that the two impressions originated from the same person. Exclusion is a determination that the two impressions, the latent and the known, were not created by the same individual, or they do not have the same source. Lastly, I have a conclusion of inconclusive, and this is where I can neither identify nor exclude the individual from having made the print. So going back to analysis, during the analysis phase, I am looking at a lot of different things. First off, I'm trying to determine, is the print from a finger or is it from part of the palm? And also I'm determining the orientation of the print. If it's from the palm, I can also, depending on the ridge flow in the latent print, I can determine what area of the palm it came from. I'm looking at the shape of the impression. Like sometimes you have like a C-shaped impression, and that's this part of the palm. So this is called the writer's palm, and that's where I would look first when I'm doing a comparison. So besides that, I am looking at level 1, level 2, and level 3 detail. Level 1 detail is the actual flow or pattern of the ridges. Our fingers have 3 main patterns, which are loops, whirls, and arches. Next, I'm looking at second level detail. I'm looking at the ridge characteristics. So I'm looking at where the ridges end, which we call ridge endings. I'm examining where ridges split into 2 ridges, which are called bifurcations. And I'm marking any dots, which are very short ridges. So I'm examining the latent, and I'm marking up all these second level details so that I can later compare to the exemplar. I'm also noting if there's any scars present in the latent. I'm noting if there's some creases or if there are issues with the deposition.
The more this woman talks, the more I realize I could never be a fingerprint analysis person. You have to be so detail oriented and not squirrely. I would be terrible at this. Like the more she's talking, the more I'd be like, oh God, I'd zone out. It'd be terrible. I think I found my perfect career. I don't think I'd be good as a latent print person. I am not that organized.
Pressure or if there seems to be some movement in the latent, I'm documenting all of that stuff in the analysis phase of my analysis.
I think that might fairly look like 249.
Do you
Leave that with her.
Okay.
Yep. You recognize Exhibit 249 as an item that you were provided and asked to process to see if you could recover any latent prints or friction ridge detail.
Sorry.
Kind of a little awkward.
Yes, I do recognize this item.
And were you provided with that Exhibit 249, that bat, and asked to try to recover any latent prints from that bat?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell us, in this Exhibit 249, what did you do to attempt to recover any, and did you recover any latent prints?
Yes, on the request, it was also requested that I process the item with clean techniques because it was also requested that I swab the item for DNA. So I already went through that process and explained that. So I used clean techniques to process this item. And the very first thing I did when I opened up the packaging was I swabbed the textured grip for potential DNA. The reason I swabbed the grip first is because of the texture on that grip, I would not expect to find latent prints on the grip. So I didn't feel that I was potentially ruining any prints because I don't feel like there would be fingerprints on that textured grip. So that was the very first thing I did. And then I did a visual examination of the bat with a flashlight to see if there were any visible prints at that.
So I'm a people watcher. I know you're shocked. Inside Cat, that's what I do. But it's interesting to see because I don't think she's comfortable with the whole intro. She kind of held herself very stiff and she was kind of, a little bit, she looked a little bit nervous. But now that she's actually talking about what she did, she is relaxed. You can tell kind of her posture's changed. I just love watching little things like that. Again, weird Mo nugget, not really anything to do with the trial. But you can tell this is her happy place. And I love it when people find their happy place.
Point. And I don't believe there
True
were.
point.
but
True point,
I would have to
Lefty.
check
You
my
do
notes.
have to enunciate.
With looking at your notes, help refresh your recollection as to whether or not you did find anything there.
Yes,
Do you have your notes up with you?
yes.
Do you want to take a look at those and then let us know when you're done if that has refreshed your recollection?
A witness with their own reports and ready to go? It's like a miracle. Okay, that's the same page. You flipped it up and put it down. I love that I'm yelling at a type A person like I have anything together.
Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, so at the visible stage, my conclusion was that there were no latents observed at the visual stage.
I'm going to put Exhibit 35 up here just so that we can all kind of see
Is
what
there
we're
a
talking
reason we
about.
can't see the bat?
So the gripped part here is what you were talking about that you swabbed because you did not believe that prints would be recoverable on that texture that was on that?
Correct.
Okay. So then you visually look, you don't observe any latent prints or friction ridge detail?
Correct.
What did you do next?
I then used a processing technique of superglue fuming.
And when you used that process, did you locate or recover any latent prints or friction ridge detail?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us how many and where?
Yes, I recovered 2 impressions that I took pictures of, and I would have to look at my notes to refresh where they were collected from.
If looking at your notes would help refresh as to where you located those, please do so and then let us know when you've been refreshed.
I'm ready.
Where did you locate those 2?
The first one was recovered in the W of the Rawlings that was above the diameter. I think Rawlings is also on the other side. So that's why I stated that it was the one that was right above where the diameter is. And the second one was recovered in between the G and the diameter.
Now, you told us that what you are recovering isn't always look like a finger, right? When you were recovering these latent prints, were you able to tell by just recovering them if it was a finger or, like you told us, a palm? When you looked at it, were you able to immediately identify where they came from?
They appeared to be fingerprints.
Was there anything about the shape or, I guess, the shape of them that made you think that they were fingerprints?
The first image, it was just the shape of the impression just indicated to me that it was a fingerprint. The size of it indicated to me that it was a fingerprint.
Was the other one, the second print, slightly, I guess, not as clear on whether or not it was a fingerprint or potentially from some other area?
Correct.
Were you asked to then compare those 2? Well, let me ask you, when you obtained these 2, you told us there were 3 different levels. Obviously, you collected something. Did you believe these were able to make identifications, or what did you determine about the clarity, the detail of those 2 recovered prints?
For both impressions, in my analysis, I determined that both impressions were NVID, which stands for no value for identification. This means that the latents lack sufficient clarity, quantity, and or uniqueness to identify, but may be suitable for exclusion. So the impressions were possibly excludable, but I would not be able to identify who made those impressions.
So were you initially asked to try to identify them to 3 individuals?
Yes, I was first asked to compare the 2 impressions to 3 individuals.
And who were those 3 individuals?
Could I look at my notes, please?
Yes, if that would help refresh your recollection.
Yes, I was initially asked to compare the 3 impressions to a Charles Vallow, a Lori Vallow, and an Alexander Cox.
So you told us, though, they were of no value for identification. So did that sort of end that request?
Yes, so when there is only prints that are determined to be no value for identification, we routinely do not compare those prints, but we say, if you still want us to compare it to anyone, please let us know. But initially, we are not going to try to compare NVID prints to any individual because they cannot be identified.
So Did you then, were you then requested to see if you could make any exclusions?
I was then requested to compare the two impressions to Charles Vallow to see if I can determine whether the two impressions did not originate from Charles Vallow.
Starting with the first impression that you found above the W, but the other side of the bath from what we see in 35 here, where there's a diameter marking. Were you able to reach any conclusions in looking at the prints from Charles Vallow and that recovered print?
Again, I went through the ACE-V process, and during the comparison phase and evaluation phase, I determined that the first latent was inconclusive to Charles Vallow, meaning that I could neither identify nor exclude him from having made the impression.
So does that just mean there's just not enough in that print to do anything with?
Correct. So it lacks sufficient agreement in the detail to identify, and it lacks sufficient disagreement in the impressions to exclude.
And is that common when you have a latent print that just doesn't seem to have the level of detail just necessary for that?
Yes, that is a common conclusion.
So you're not saying it's Charles, you're not saying it's not Charles, you just can't do anything with it?
I could neither identify or exclude Charles Vallow.
So for the second print, did you also attempt to compare that to latent prints from Charles Vallow?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to reach any conclusions as to that?
Yes, my conclusion was that the latent was inconclusive to Charles Vallow due to lack of detail in the latent and exemplar.
I still don't think, again, you are telling me, and this has to be, again, the dumbest story that they could have come up with. The fact that Alex is there makes it near on impossible that Charles Vallow got a bat, a minor league baseball player, and all he managed to do was make a little red bump on Alex's head. If this man thought he was fighting for his life, he wouldn't have tapatioed. He would have swung for the fences. So I have my doubts that any of the prints or anything that was on there was Charles Vallow. That being said, this woman.
Were you ever asked to try to exclude Alex Cox as having made those latent prints?
No. After I initially did not compare the latents to the three individuals on the name comparison, I was only asked to compare the two impressions to Charles Vallow.
So you also weren't asked to try to exclude or secondary compare to a Lori Vallow?
No, I was not.
And were you ever asked to compare to a Tylee Ryan?
No, I was not.
Did that sort of end your processing and comparisons of this bat?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions for this witness.
Cross.
I have one question.
You said earlier that the DNA that you collected, was that ever tested?
I don't know.
Is it sent somewhere else?
Correct. So
Okay.
the city of Chandler does not have the capability to test for DNA. Anytime we swab for DNA, we send it to the state lab for analysis.
So you swabbed it and sent it to the lab, and that was the last you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions for this witness from any member of the jury? I don't see any, so you can step down, ma'am. I think it's a good time to take our afternoon recess. We'll get recess for 15 minutes.
Okay, guys, I'm going to end there because the next witness is going to be Kay Woodcock. And I have a feeling that tomorrow is going to be a ranty, cursy stream because I have no doubt that Lori is going to show her behind to Kay Woodcock, mostly because she's upset that she was no longer the beneficiary of the insurance. Now, that being said, if I had the power to time travel, look, I wouldn't use it for good. I would be a fly on the wall the minute Lori heard about not being the beneficiary. I would revel in her anger and madness of not being there. I'm a terrible person. I wouldn't go back to change history or anything. I'd just go there for the drama. That being said, this is why I don't have time travel, because I would not use it respectfully. That being said, guys, I'm going to send you, let me see who I can send you to. I am going to send you to Broken Baker. He is doing a high school trial. I have not even gotten into all of this, but I know it is current. So I'm going to send you over there. They're probably getting ready to do lunch, but I do want to do just a separate stream with Kay Woodcock because I think this is where Lori is going to show her whole ass. And I am going to need to have time and an emotional support beverage to go through this because she is going to be an utter ass to a person that she stole her grandson and her brother from. And her other, I am sure she loved Tylee just as much as she loved JJ and adopted her into her heart. And the fact that this bitter heifer who didn't get money, decides to be pro se and get to question this woman, it burns my biscuits. That being said, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because you never know when you might meet a Lori, someone who desperately needs to atone but doesn't understand the word because she thought atone meant audacity. She just confused her dictionary. Bye, you guys.